The Forbidden Notebook of Quintus Fabius Priscus, former scribe of the Palatine archives, written in the 10th year of Emperor Domitian, for my grandson Lucius, so that someone will still know the whole truth when the marble lies are finished. Boy, when you read this, most of the men who saw it will be dead. The statues of Gaius Julius Caesar Augustus Germanicus, the man the soldiers once called Little Boots, have long been smashed. His name has been scraped from every public stone. Yet the things he did were never scraped from the flesh of those who lived through them. I was 23 when he came to power. I worked in the office that kept the daily Acta Diurna and the private commentarii of the emperor. My hand copied the orders that today they burn. I am therefore the last living man who saw the ledgers with my own eyes. Listen carefully. Year 37. March. The city had been holding its breath for 23 years under Tiberius. When the old man finally died on Capri, Rome rejoiced as if the Republic had returned. Gaius entered the city on a white horse. He abolished the treason trials, paid the legions their full donative, opened the granaries, staged 100 days of games. Old men wept in the streets. Senators carried him on their shoulders. I myself wrote the decree that granted him the civic crown for saving the citizens. 6 months later, the same hand wrote something very different. In October, Gaius fell ill. The fever lasted 31 days. The court physicians, among them my friend Aulus Cornelius Celsus, later told me privately that the emperor's pulse once stopped for the length of 200 heartbeats and then started again. When he rose from the bed, the pupils of his eyes had become permanently dilated, as if he still saw the underworld. That was the moment the palace changed purpose. Within a single week, the emperor issued 3 orders that no one dared write in the official acta. They were copied only in a separate wax tablet sealed with the Sphinx ring. I saw the tablet. I copied it. Order the first. All wives and unmarried daughters of senatorial and equestrian families between the ages of 12 and 40 are to be registered in a new Liber Sacrarum Alumni, the Book of Sacred Attendance. Order the second. A new wing of the Palatine, formerly the Library of Augustus, is to be converted into apartments, for the comfort of the attendants and the convenience of those who serve the divine emperor. Order the third. All services rendered within the new wing are to be treated as vota publica, public offerings, and the sums paid for them are to be entered in the Aerarium Saturni under the heading Dona Populi Romani. That was the birth of the Lupanar Palatinum, the name the guards used among themselves, never allowed. The system was not chaos. It was the most orderly thing I have ever recorded. Every morning, a sealed list arrived from the emperor's cubiculum. 20 names, rank, age, distinguishing marks, previous visits noted. 2 copies. One for the cubicularius who commanded the German bodyguards, one for the Arationibus who kept the money. The women arrived at the side entrance before dawn, escorted by silent Germans. They wore plain white stolas with a narrow purple stripe, the mark of the Vestal Virgins, deliberately chosen. Inside, the corridors had been repainted. The old frescoes of the Trojan War were plastered over. In their place, scenes from the loves of the gods, Jupiter as bull, swan, shower of gold, but with the face of Gaius on every divine figure. Each room had a purpose and a price list nailed to the door in plain Latin. Cubiculum Veneris, 10,000 sesterces per use. Cubiculum Priapi, 15,000. Cubiculum Luni, only on full moon nights, 25,000 and invitation only. The money was paid in advance at a table manned by an imperial freedman named Helicon, the same man who later trained the emperor's racehorses. He issued bronze tokens stamped with the emperor's profile. No token, no exit. Senators and knights paid gladly if it bought silence or promotion. Those who hesitated received a visit from the speculators. 3 days later their names appeared on the next list, free of charge as a lesson. I kept the duplicate receipts for 7 months. Then the emperor ordered them moved to an iron chest beneath his bedroom. I was the last outsider to see that chest. It was full. Some cases I still remember by number. Entry 312. Emilia Lepida, daughter of the consul of 39, aged 14. First visit, April 9, 38. Father paid 40,000 sesterces for the restoration of the Temple of Castor. Second visit, June 14th. No payment recorded. The father had already killed himself. Entry 589. Junia Silana, wife of Gaius Silius, later executed by Claudius. 27 visits in 1 year. Pregnancy recorded on the 20th. Child born February 40, registered as Filius Principus, taken to the imperial nursery on the Celian Hill. We had a nursery. 23 children by the time Gaius died. None of them ever knew their real fathers. The husbands were sometimes required to be present. Not to watch, that would have been too simple. They were made to hold the lamp, or pour the wine, or read aloud from Ovid while the act took place. One consular, Marcus Vinicius, was ordered to count the strokes aloud in Greek. When he lost count at 211, the Germans broke his fingers one by one until he remembered. The emperor rarely participated himself after the first year. He sat on a raised ivory chair, dressed as Jupiter, and took notes on wax tablets. The notes were later used in the Senate. A man who had shown too much enthusiasm found himself praetor the next month. A man who turned his face away found his estates confiscated for neglect of sacred duties. We even had medical inspections. The chief physician, Stertinius Xenophon, examined every woman upon arrival and departure. His report went straight to the emperor. Fertility status, signs of resistance, recommendations for future utility. Some women tried to disfigure themselves with broken glass or hot oil. The physicians became expert at stitching faces and restoring appearances. Ugliness, the emperor said, was no excuse. The goddess accepts all offerings. Escape was impossible. The entire Palatine hill was ringed by the Germanic bodyguard and by silent boys from the Patagogium, who were trained to follow and report. One girl, Pomponia Graecina, managed to reach the Tiber and throw herself in. They fished her out alive. 3 nights later her mother and both sisters were added to the list. By the year 40, the terror had become routine. Senators greeted each other in the forum with the same phrase, "Has your house been honored this week?" The phrase meant the opposite of what it said. On the Ides of January 41, the emperor decided to stage the climax of his reign. He announced a 3-day festival of divine union in the underground cryptoporticus beneath the palace. The entire Senate was invited, required, to attend. The crypt was lit by 1,000 lamps. The wives and daughters were led in wearing golden chains. The emperor appeared naked except for a wreath of oak leaves, carrying a whip made of silver wire. That was the night Cassius Chaerea decided he had been mocked enough. Chaerea was a tribune of the Praetorian Guard, an old soldier with a high girlish voice that the emperor loved to imitate. For 3 years Chaerea had stood outside the doors while the empire was unmade. On January 24th, as Gaius left the theater through the narrow passage, Chaerea stepped forward and drove his sword into the emperor's neck. 30 more blades followed. They made sure to strike the genitals last, a soldier's answer to years of calculated shame. The body was carried out on a cloak. The wife Caesonia was killed beside it. The little daughter, Julia Drusilla, had her brains dashed against a wall. Rome celebrated for 3 days. Then the new emperor Claudius ordered every record destroyed. Statues fell. Inscriptions were erased. The iron chest disappeared. Some say into the Tiber, some say into Claudius's private vaults. But paper is not the only thing that remembers. There are still old women in the Subura who will not speak above a whisper. There are men with the brand of the imperial nursery on their shoulder who became gladiators or priests, and never told their real names. There are senators' tombs where the wife is buried far from her husband, because even in death, they could not bear to lie together. I am old now. My hand shakes, but I have written this on the thinnest parchment I could find, rolled inside a bronze tube, to be buried with me. When you read it, Lucius, remember one thing. Evil does not need to be mad. Madness is easy to condemn, and easy to forget. What Gaius built was perfectly sane, perfectly legal, perfectly documented. That is what made it monstrous. And that is why the marble lies. Quintus Fabius Priscus, scribe, eyewitness, and, may the gods forgive me, keeper of the accounts. Finished on the calends of August, in the year when Domitian became censor for life.